let's get really quickly to, in this scroll, you will see that, let's see if that's not it, no. You'll see that a whole number of things happened. And in that whole number of things happened, to begin with, in 2002, you'll see this email, which is from DARPA. Right here, it says DARPA. Ms. Jacobs is from DARPA. And she says, and it's, let's see, from C.A. Jacobs at DARPA Military. And it says, Chris, I received your comments from the other reviewing office. They suggest that you pass your idea to Transportation Security Administration, which I did. But the Security Administration was just being formed into Homeland Security. And so I sent it, and I asked them, what about it? And I always was told it just went up the ladder, but nothing more. And I had started to bitch by this time already, saying that I wanted to know what happened to my property and if anybody wanted to use it or not, because people are supposed to answer you seasonably in law. And here you'll see that I wrote, again, DARPA, and this is a C compo, and I said to him, here you can see that I've got all the material you could want. This is from criminal investigations. The lady from DARPA sent that last email I just showed you also to this man, because by that time I had already been waiting and waiting and waiting to find out whether DARPA even wanted to use or pass the information along. And it wasn't difficult information to understand, because basically I put together something using systems that already worked. So the physics were clear that the component systems work, and all I had to do was show how they network to do something new. And indeed, the government today is using these systems in the Predator, and is planning on using these systems in the FAA, in the air traffic control situations.
Right.
But the point is that the government got stuff, and there is another person, one of the people who reviewed my information for proof of principle, and he said, again, he is an electronic engineer who works at the Department of Physics in the University of California, Berkeley. And he said that the stuff works, as well as DARPA. Mind you, when they say pass it on to Transportation Security Administration, that means they've reviewed it and it works. And they're prepared to have another government agency look to see if, they want to use it. And indeed, they are using it. But just to show most clearly that there is stuff and it does work, I have a letter from Russell Orr, who says that, and you can see up here, it says Department of Physics, University of California, Berkeley, Physics Department, okay? And he is saying that I came up with a number of different inventions. My name is Rusty Orr. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering. I work at the Department of Physics at the University of California in Berkeley. Several years ago, I briefly looked over his plane anti-terror system that I'm told passed DARPA in 2002. So he's acknowledging that he looked it over and that it passed DARPA, okay, or that he's told it passed DARPA. And he also talks about, I can testify that the physics and its project theories are basically sound, that the various component technologies are currently available and on the market for project assembly. And this applies to the anti-terror system and another system called the US OPEC system, which I named US OPEC system, which is the best energy system ever devised by man. Not only does it do clean energy, but it does clean solar energy, and it is 4 times more efficient than the best photovoltaic solar panel. type sim. This is a solar concentrator. Mind you, there were solar concentrators before, but these were big field systems. They weren't an integrated unit that you could pick up and just move, whether you put it in a village in Africa or whether you put a bunch of them in a field to generate power. You can put one on top of a telephone pole an electrical pole to pump in energy that's lost through the wires and so forth. And though he's not being totally specific in this, he says that the sun tracking parabolic mirrors focus on a boiler system, steam engine with alternator, generates electricity and allows for hydrogen separation, which means that not only can you power homes and high-rises and so on with the US OPEC system, but you can also separate hydrogen. Now, mind you, hydrogen was considered to be a carrier because it wasn't effective. It cost like 50 cents or a dollar's worth of gas to get 50 cents worth of hydrogen in terms of fuel relationships. But my system allows you to produce hydrogen cheaper than through producing hydrogen through coal or natural gas or nuclear and so on. So if you can produce hydrogen cheaper than the equivalent energy efficiencies that producing it through coal and natural gas and so on, which is why they call it a carrier, because you put in a dollar's worth of oil to get 50 cents worth of hydrogen. It's not it's not efficient. But if you can beat the pricing through using a solar system, all of a sudden you can power cars and not only homes and high-rises, but moving vehicles, cars, trains, planes, if you've got a hydrogen engine. And, Honda has a hydrogen Civic on the road today. But nobody's really been doing hydrogen because they say that it's not cost-effective to get hydrogen. Now, mind you, hydrogen is the most prevalent element in the universe. But it's always attached to something. So it's like water's hydrogen and oxygen. And to get to hydrogen by itself, and remember, hydrogen is what sends the shuttle up into space. They use hydrogen to send the shuttle up into space because it burns so well. Fact is, it burns so hot that you can't even see the flame. But the point is that this system does hydrogen, and I was the first person in court documents to say that hydrogen is not a carrier, but it is a fuel, because one can produce it cost effectively. And indeed, one can produce energy more cost effectively using the US OPEC system than any other system out there. Right. Okay, so we have intellectual property, and we have a situation where I was taken through Trump charges, and whereby people ignored evidence, and whereby they said I threatened the president, and whereby they said that I assaulted police officers, and none of it's true. I did threaten the president with use of law. You can threaten anybody with use of law if they've breached law. When people refuse to answer me as to what they wanted to do with the intellectual property that they got in 2002. Mind you, I was duressed in 2005. So there was a 3-year period with tons of documents going to newspapers, going to government, going to lawyers like, advocates for individuals, to ethics people, on and on. I've got tons of documents. Much of this isn't in the Scroll of Silence, because the Scroll of Silence is basically to show a series of breaches of law that I can prove that show theft by extortion occurred, as well as conspiracy against rights, as well as conspiracy against in restraint of trade. Now, if you look at this, they're saying there's stuff. The shrinks are, this man is saying there's stuff. The shrinks are saying there's stuff. And nobody wanted to review the stuff. Now, if you look at the Sims motion that I showed you, he says that I spoke with the Secret Service over 6 times in that 3-year period where I was asking, well, what happened to my stuff? And nobody was responding. And so, since you can't just walk into these big government buildings, they're concrete, they've got, checkpoints, they've got guards at the doors, and they don't want to let you in. Mind you, I had already gone to the DOJ and was refused entry and picked up and thrown out like a sack of potatoes. That is documented too. That's an assault. It's like as if I was a drunk in a bar, but I wasn't drunk. I went to file complaints to have my property adjudicated. Now
you said that they would not look at this. I'm confused. Are you talking about while you were being harassed?
No. This was before, and while, and still currently.
So none of the judges, none of the lawyers, nobody were willing to look at the evidence?
I was shoving it at them, and where it was shoved at them and they had no choice, they would say it's not relevant evidence. Now mind you, in law, it's like a causal situation. You look at things in timelines, okay? What was the first cause? It's got to be relevant. It's all got to be relevant, okay? And there are rules of relevant evidence, and I can get into that further. But it's like, imagine that you punch me, and then I punch you in return. Your punch, your initial punch, if it's for no cause or anything, is an assault. If I punch you in return, that's self-defense, okay? So if you say our government and you attack me, and I say, that's first cause, and I respond by, say, threatening the president with use of law, and they say, oh, you're just threatening the president, not mentioning that you're talking about use of law, not mentioning that there's property that's missing, not mentioning that there are laws that require adjudication of property that government received, and I will show you some of these laws, then you are, one, ignoring legal claim. Okay, we're going to have to stop here for the moment, but we'll get in further into this, and we'll do it in breaks because there's a lot of information to go through.
Okay.
But the phone's ringing, so
We'll get it.
We'll go. Okay, thanks.